And hey, everyone, this is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives, from YourGameSource.com and GameSource on Facebook, at GameSource on Twitter. We provide more stories on the gaming and pop culture world because we like to delve now heavily into pop culture, to be quite honest with you, because it's just so fun and fascinating world to delve into, where we delve into pop culture, movies, television, gaming, um, technology, you name it now these days, because it seems to all go hand in hand. We take care of it for you here at yourgamesource.com. It's Game Source Podcast number 140. And I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend. He is Josh Peterson. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic.
And I'm just want to say to everybody out there, if you get a chance, check out his book, Vendetta Dark. If you have not done so already, it's a great read. It's available on Amazon. And Center Space. Could you share a little bit more about your newest offering out there called Center Space?
Yeah, Center Space is actually it's interesting because it's based. I had a friend approach me and asked me to write a story like fiction based on his music that's coming out. So I said, I decided to tie it into Vendetta Dark. So I carry on some of the characters from Vendetta Dark carry on into Center Space, but a lot of Center Space is it's just a really unique story, unlike anything I've ever really written before.
Oh, that's good to hear. I can't wait to see it myself. Can't wait to read it myself. Right here at Game Source Podcast 140. But then again, that is Center Space from Josh Peterson. Today it's going to be start off a little bit different because I know Josh has some things he wants to cover. But then we will go ahead and talk a little bit more about a certain movie coming out this week. And then we'll also talk about some other things like virtual reality, now that the Gaming Developers Conference is now over. Some interesting news came from there. And of course, we will talk about the hot news topic that's going around the gaming world. Is the Wii U dead? Should it die? Or should Nintendo let it keep on breathing? That seems to be the question up for debate. But I know, Josh, there's some things you want to cover first off and foremost. And let's go at it whenever you're ready, my friend.
All right. Well, this might be old news now, but since Daredevil season 2 just came out on Netflix, everyone's talking about the Immortal Iron Fist show that's coming out. Also, it's supposed to follow after the Luke Cage series, but there's a lot of people who are complaining about their casting decision, which they cast the actor Finn Jones for the part of Danny Rand. They're saying they're upset because they wanted the actor to be Asian, but the comic book traditionally revolves around a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes living as an outcast in an Asian culture. So it makes me wonder, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that injecting diversity into a story that relies heavily on the main character being white would work? And how do you think changing his ethnicity would affect the origins of a story like that?
Well, I think first and foremost, it depends on the actor. If the actor is not up for the challenge, you're going to see it right away. And those glaring weaknesses in his or hers acting talent will obviously make those differences to people who, how should I say, if they want to be haters, they're going to be haters even more if you don't have the right talent actually performing on front of the screen, in front of the camera, or what have you. Second of all, it just, whether you want to say Marvel's trying to go out of its way to be politically correct, or you just want to go and say that it's just the way the world has evolved and become out to, rather than what it was previously, as far as when these certain comic series were created and developed and thought of. It's just sometimes it has to be, because that you can't all have a whitewashing, because if you do too many as far as white characters, as far as white actors playing whatnot, there's such a story, a landstorm of criticism that befalls whatever studio. I mean, what's the latest of Gods Among Us, or what is the one with
Gods of Egypt?
Yeah, Gods. Yeah, exactly. That one right there, Gerard Butler, where let's put the fact aside that it was an awful film. Let's put the fact aside that he should have been the actual the hero instead of the villain in the movie. First off, that did it for me right there. But the third, and obviously, that and Aloha both have recently been criticized in the past year for changing its structure to think that it's going to cater to a larger, broader, and shall I say it, wider audience.
Yeah, like with with Immortal Iron Fist, like the big thing, it was Marjorie Lee or Liu who wrote Dark Wolverine and had a brief run with the X-23 series.
Yeah.
She called the Immortal Iron Fist an Orientalist white man yellow fever narrative. So, but it's tough. Like if you were to put an Asian actor into that scenario, the story would completely lose its foundation, because the original Iron Fist came out in the 1970s, and that was about this. It's basically the opposite of Bruce Lee. So all Bruce Lee's movies were, he was Asian, but they were all American, whitewashed pretty much. So it's just it's tough when like a comic book is written in that era and it specifically revolves around the character being white. It's just what do you do to respect the source material when adapting something like that if you really are adamant about changing the character's ethnicity?
But it also, but I will say in return, who are you trying to exactly get this to? What is the target audience? Are you trying to just target the hardcores? If you're trying to target the hardcores, you shall make every endeavor into trying to get as close to the source material as possible. But if you're not, and you're trying to treat it to a broader audience, then you have broader goals in mind. And one of those broader goals for Marvel that I have seen, in their casting choices and whatnot, is to try and be more diversified. And to me, that's a credit to them for thinking outside the box, because they have actually garnered some real good talent, based not based off of ethnicity, but based off their actual talent. Yes, they're different ethnicities as far as maybe what the source material had dictated originally, but it's just tremendous to see that they're making wise choices for the most part as far as actors and actresses are concerned playing these roles. So for a lot of people, as far as the general consumer is concerned, they seem to be more adaptive because Marvel's made so many right choices so far. But if you're asking those hardcores, as far as concerned, maybe they are straying away a little bit too much too often. And this is obviously one example that some people in the internet, as what happens often may do, they have a tendency to criticize quite heavily. But I ask you, Josh, as far as this concerned, going back, is it something? How important is it for you to maintain that that base as far as it's concerned, as far as the source material is concerned? When they're trying to appeal to a larger audience by bringing onto these different forums.
Honestly, I'm kind of torn on the issue, because I understand the need for diversity, and like that's great because they're about to launch Black Panther. They got Luke Cage coming out, and there's even talks about Blade being welcomed into the fold. But I think with it's tough you have to watch that, treading that line between whether this is diversity for the sake of diversity or if this character actually needs something like this change. As far as like the Iron Fist goes, I really feel like the character has never been in the comic books. He's never been anybody but like a blonde hair, blue eyed white person. And I feel if you were to take an Asian and make him and put him in that character, unless you change the entire like foundation of the comic book, maybe he's an Asian trying to exist in a white culture, but it would still take away from the story. I feel like, especially since you have such a powerful Asian character who's going to exist alongside him, Shang-Chi. So I think they're kind of balanced each other out. But I mean, that's just me, because I don't know if I wouldn't call myself a purist, but I like the source material to be respected, at least to some extent.
And I can agree with you there, because obviously with Black Panther coming out, they want to keep it in tune with the source material as much as possible. But them taking liberties. In fact, with Civil War coming out, Civil War is going to retain some of its core, from the core source material, but they're actually have taken broader steps in order to, they feel that, to bring it on to the big screen and to make it more palpable to a larger audience. But yes, when it comes to Iron Fist, maybe they should be at least somewhat respectful as far as their core audience is concerned. But how large of an audience is it when it comes down to that? When you're talking about, because this is a business, when these decisions are made, the ultimate decision is made off of money. How much money can we garner off this franchise? Or in this case, how many views and what are the ratings are concerned? And when they go after this, if they decide to stray, how much are they going to stray away from the source material in order to make it, a viewable experience for a larger audience? But it's going to be hard, like you said. There is that delicate balance. There is that delicate tightrope that they have to keep on trying to stay balanced on, as far as making the purists such as yourself, or that you have purist tendencies such as yourself, that would like to see the source material covered, and then also trying to placate to a larger audience. So there is that balancing act. But you're right, as far as that's concerned, it starts with the casting, and if that casting is not done well enough, or it's not well thought out, or if it's not planned correctly, it all goes astray from there, in my opinion. But as we've seen with The Walking Dead, they keep some similarities, but then they also stray away from the source material when need be, and as you can see the results there, it's worked out for them just fine.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You just have to, because to me, it's at the end of the day, like these movies are. You have people who casually go and see these movies, and then you have people who have like spent weeks, months, years of their life delving into these characters. These characters are like an alternate reality for them. So I guess that's where like my big opinion on this comes from. But I get the need for diversity in comic books, especially if you look at the Miles Morales, for example. Like when he took over Ultimate Spider-Man, now he exists as one of the main Spider people in the regular Marvel universe. But he's in the last issue to come out, he was an Asian video blogger. She caught a glimpse of him without his mask on, but she didn't see his face, but she just saw that his skin was black. And she said, and she was talking about how she's so excited that this new Spider-Man is black, but in a separate window, Miles Morales was saying that he doesn't want to be the black Spider-Man, he just wants to be Spider-Man. So, and like, I think normally this would be a touching moment for comic books, but what I'm reading is that it's upset quite a few people because it's not an African-American person who's writing this, it's a white person who's writing this. So do you think that it's right for white people to try to like translate what non-white people think and feel for the sake of art?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And you get onto some real touchy subjects, because again, we come across another same narrative where there's you're walking across a dangerous tightrope as far as trying to go ahead and write or create things about an ethnicity that's not, and a culture at the base that's not your own. And anytime that you delve into that as a writer, if you haven't done the research or firsthand experience necessary to write on it, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, and it's going to come off extremely poor indeed. I'm not going to say it can't be done, because there has been examples in both the literary and televised and film world where it has been done and has been done successfully. But it's a game that it's a very dangerous game, especially in the days and ages we live now, where if something like that is done improperly, it could have serious cultural ramifications as far as a backlash is concerned.
Yeah, and I think that Miles Morales, his Spider-Man arcs have been fantastic. He is a truly interesting character. Like, he really breathed life into the new, back into Spider-Man, because there are several issues down the line now. But it's really like, I think that the whole thing is just people who are again, it's the purists versus the new comic book fans. The purists like their Spider-Man white, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think, like I said, Miles Morales as Spider-Man is really good. I don't know if you've ever read any of that stuff, but
I have a little bit, yes.
yeah. But the point is, like, do they think that maybe if Marvel were to hire like an African American writer to take that thing, it would be to take his story, it would be more powerful than it is now? Because it's kind of, it's like, say, like a
It's
white.
it's seeing a new perspective on it, and it's also seeing a culturally correct perspective of it, and you're getting experiences that writer, only that writer can create. Correct?
Correct. So to me, it feels like if a white person were to have written Roots, like, it really wouldn't have the same. It would be kind of offensive in a way. Not that this is offensive, but I feel like if they really want to champion the cause of like an African American Spider-Man, they should go out of the box and not have. I know, that's his. Brian Michael Bendis, like Ultimate Spider-Man, is his creation, but maybe it's time. He set up the story, so maybe it's time that he like step down. Hand the reins over to somebody else.
I would agree with you, because the more you play with that fire, the more the bigger chance you're going to get burnt, and something's going to happen, or there's going to be some dialoguing, some branching note when you're trying, as far as to create your stories, that's not going to hit where you need it to hit, where you think it's going to hit with an audience, and that's the first thing that's going to be called out is the fact that he's a white writer, as far as it's concerned, and not true to the culture base that what you're dealing with here. And if you're supposed, if there should be, as far as there's enough talented writers out there of all ethnicities that should get the opportunity to work on cultural comic books with cultural backgrounds that are similar to their own, but they should also be able to get the chance to write on others as well, if they are skilled enough, like we've talked about. I mean, if we have a white writer that's doing a commendable job on a certain comic book, that should also lead to an Asian, African American, Indian, whatever, Native American, whatever ethnicity base that you are, they should also get the same chance as well, because talent is talent across the board, no matter what background you have. If you've got it, you should be able to use it. And Marvel's not stupid. Marvel is probably so much more developed in recent years, as far as even just before the Disney takeover, from the company that I knew, early years with the previous iteration of Daredevil and whatnot, where that company looked like it was really in bad shape, to what it is now, where they are making calculated, correct decisions, not out of arrogance, but really just taking they're making very good decisions overall, as far as the future for their entire franchises, and they've got a lot of cachet with the general fans and the hardcore audience right now, and they should use it by going ahead and making sending a message out to all industries, as far as it's concerned, that all backgrounds can be able to provide quality stuff if they're given the chance.
Right. And everyone brings a different experience into the story. And personally, I think that it's kind of sad that this is even like an argument, because no matter what skin color the writer or the hero is, I think the important point is just that the story's good, and it's something that can, provide people with the escape that they need, can, inspire them maybe. And it boils down to this, though. Let me ask you, if you like, so comic book purists kind of get a bad name. Do you think that they're not, it's not hatred, but do you think that these accusations are against them are based on the fact that they are intolerant, or just that they have like a really deep reverence for the source material? Like, same thing with like the people who have followed Star Trek for years. Like, if you were to go and change that story around, they would probably riot.
Well, pure and simple of anything, comic books, Star Trek, Star Wars, what have you, they're always getting up in arms, when there's something that's changing from what they are familiar with. It's just a natural tendency of us as human beings right now in 2016.
Right.
When if you are purist in whatever it is, and that's something it's changed in front of you, then obviously you're going to react most likely in a negative fashion. And I don't see this as a surprise. I certainly don't see this as a shock in any way, shape, or form, but I do see this as a learning opportunity for those to be more receptive of quality work wherever it comes from. And definitely, I just want to, reiterate that people need to give this a chance, as far as it's concerned, that storyline, but also as well to be able to give writers of various backgrounds the chance to work on projects like these, because I think it will deepen a storyline such as that even further than what the current writer could be doing as well. In my opinion, I think it could deepen the experience and make it more enriching for fans because of the way that the relation could be there as far as it's concerned. That's just my opinion, I know, but I really see a great future for comic book franchises if they're allowed to get away a little bit, still somewhat embrace, but at least get away a little bit from that rigid structure that purists have had on the industry. Because there is, I've seen it, I know you've seen it, but there is a certain box, a certain tunnel that purists have created in regards to the way they want their comic books. And sometimes it's that area is too rigid, and it's with any industry as far as it's concerned. When it comes to purists, they want their little window and little ball, a sphere of exactly how they want it. And unfortunately, sometimes they're not able to see, even myself, when I'm a purist about certain things, I'm not always able to see the bigger picture as far as it's concerned. And sometimes we need to just step out of this box as purists in order to see that, hey, this could really work and could work even better for our beloved franchise.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The only problem I have with that movement to go forward is that it's hard to tell. Like, you get a lot of keyboard warriors sitting back behind who don't really read any comic books, don't really care about comic books. They'll go see a few Marvel movies, but then they have, it feels like these days, since race is such a huge issue, they have such a huge hold over like a subculture that they don't really belong to. If that makes sense.
No, that's absolutely correct. And when it comes to my knowledge of comic books and whatnot, even back from when I was young, I don't have a pinky full compared to you. So when it comes to being an authority on the comic book scene, I would gladly defer to you on any type of situation such as that. But when it comes down to situations and opinions such as what you're talking about, that's not just in the comic book world, but as I stated earlier, it's a common theme when you're a purist about basically anything in today's culture, whether it's pop culture, whether it's politics, what have you. People have a tendency to gravitate towards something so heavily that they're not able to always see exactly something good that may be just a little bit outside of that realm.
Right. There's been, honestly, in the past 3 years, there's been some amazing comic books come out because they recreated a hero, or they changed his nationality and skin color. Miles Morales, Miss Marvel, even I know the Fantastic Four reboot was awful, but I thought that
well, just the use of Michael B. Jordan on there, that
yeah,
and you can see he has talent, because look what he did with Creed, and just a tremendous job there. So,
yeah,
but
exactly.
unfortunately, it gave, like you said, those keyboard warriors, because the movie stunk, and it really, as I like to say, it really blew chunks. It gave every opportunity for those keyboard warriors to start, typing away, all the spew and the hatred and the junk that they want to. But in my opinion, as I think you're probably alluding to, it wasn't because of the actor in this situation. It was because of the product that was given to him.
Yes, exactly. Like I said, it's you have to tread the line carefully, but I think that there is a bright future up ahead for comic books, even comic book film adaptations, because there's people who we've had this conversation before, people calling for stronger female characters. Scarlet Witch, like look at her, she is she's become quite popular. There's t-shirts, action figures. It's it's one step at a time, but it's there'll come a day when it's everyone gets what they want.
And I've told you already, we've had this conversation before regarding Black Widow. I mean, finally they're starting to see little bits, with the change in regime at Marvel Studios. And I know about that. As far as it's concerned, the previous hierarchy did not want to go all out on banking on the female aspect, as far as seeing that revenue that I saw, because I as I've said before, I've got $2, take them to the comic book store every month. They live and breathe Marvel. As far as they're concerned, my 10-year-old just cannot get enough of these sneak peeks and exposés on what they think is going to happen with Civil War. She has seen every single one of them almost. That actually keeps the language to a proper usage. But yeah, some of them really don't. I'm like, no, can't watch that one. But she wants to know more and more about Civil War. She is just freaked out about it. And my 8-year-old too. If she's not watching that, she's watching other stuff relating to it, as far as from the Star Wars and Marvel universes. But there's a tremendous amount of revenue that was missed out over the past 5-10 years, especially with the rise in Scarlett Johansson's role and prominence within the Avengers universe. I think Marvel was missing out on a ton of cash, and it's just finally good to see that with the onslaught, which is just starting to trickle in, of merchandising from Civil War. By the way, did you get your knit boxers yet? I saw at Walmart the other day.
I did not. I didn't know that was a thing. I'll have to look into it.
They are available now at your local Walmart, as I was told. So, but T-shirts are, I'm sure, coming right behind. But they don't want to put them out yet because there's this Superman and Batman, which we'll talk about in a sec. They want to try and sell those first. But anyways, my girls, they are really, really into the Marvel franchises, and I'm just glad to see that Kevin has really now gotten a great idea. Now that he's the head honcho at Marvel, as far as what they want to do, what they want to plan out, and how they want to go ahead and take all these personalities of different backgrounds, male or female, and actually make them commercialize them themselves as well. Because obviously when Marvel brings out properties and merchandising for a movie, there'll be a ton of it, and there's going to be a ton that's sold, and there's going to be a ton that's not. So why don't you just, if you're going to say yes to licensing a lot of stuff, just make it even across the board for almost every Marvel character, because it is only in their best interest, because they can they can see what works and what's not. How excited are people going to be? Are they for Black Panther? Well, the sales will dictate that. How people excited for, as far as the Spider-Man, even though I know he's a Sony movie property, he's still a Marvel property to some extent. They'll gauge exactly. So Sony will also know exactly how excited they are, because obviously the feedback from him being seen in the trailer has been tremendous. But there's just so many opportunities that Marvel in the past has missed because of the hierarchy involved. But the change now is for the better, and they're understanding a little bit more as far as the traditional forms of comic book fans is going by a wayside, and there's a new style, a new group of comic book fans coming into the universe that want something more out of their comic book heroes. And I think Marvel, at least on that end, is about ready to deliver that promise.
Yes, I agree. That's the end of my questions right there. So what have you got for me today?
Well, on that note regarding comic books, there's a certain little movie that's coming out from the Pepsi of comic books, DC versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. And well, I ask you, as our resident comic book man and comic book expert, aficionado, whatever you want to say, because you are it, man. You know as far as anyone as far as it's concerned. What is your? I know you put your ear to the ground as far as the momentum for this movie as compared to the Marvel movie that's coming out, Captain America: Civil War. And we knew the Captain America Civil War trailer with Spider-Man blew up when
Oh,
that came out, almost to Star Wars Force Awakens numbers. I want to add, very very similar to their numbers. So that being said, how excited do you think people are for this? And do you think that this will be able to successfully kickstart the DC franchise, much in the way, I don't want to say the Avengers, but the Iron Man series, let's go for that as far as it's concerned, has kickstarted the Marvel movie franchise? Because I believe it started with the Iron Man movies, as far as, in my opinion.
yeah. It's honestly like it's really hard to say for sure because I loved Man of Steel. I thought that movie was just is a visual feast, and it was pretty spot on with the comic books. Yet it didn't get the attention that it deserved. Like it didn't have as many viewers as like an Avengers movie would have. So I think that once and right now, like I haven't read a lot of reviews for Batman vs Superman, but from what people have been telling me, that the reviews aren't so great. But you can't really trust the reviews, honestly. But I honestly I think that it's a good platform because people love Batman, people love Superman, and people love watching things get destroyed. Like if the Avengers is any indication of that, people love explosions and superheroes fighting each other. I think that it has a great chance of launching DC's universe.
Okay, and but that said, would you have given all the spoilers in the trailers that they did? Because they gave away a ton of spoilers, and it actually has detracted some from actually seeing the movie because of it.
I think that they have because from what I understand, the budget for this movie was huge, and they have so much on the line, and they're so determined to launch that shared cinematic universe that yeah, they probably did give away a whole lot in the trailers, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot in the movie that is still worth seeing. Like for example, that fight with Doomsday. You know, you have that whole all you get to see and the fight between Batman and Superman. All you get to see are little snippets of it. But like to actually watch it, like I personally like I went out and I watched. There's connected trailers on the internet that are like 14 minutes long. I watched every single one of them, and I don't know if you've ever read the comic book of Batman vs Superman, but it's got a lot more characters in it. Green Arrow is I don't want to give you guys a spoiler, but like Green Arrow is a big like player in that comic book, but he's not in the DC
Nope.
cinematic universe. So
I know
it,
Aquaman. I know Aquaman, and two more superheroes are teased, along with the three that has been mentioned. But I don't think Green Arrow was one of them. I might be mistaken. I don't think so because of Arrow's efficient. See, that's another thing I want to ask. Is Arrow from the TV series, who's done a very admirable job, and Flash has done a
oh,
very admirable job.
Flash.
They should be translated onto the big screen to keep some type of cohesion, because you see DC approving this Supergirl Flash hybrid that's going on of them appearing on each other's TV shows and whatnot. But I haven't heard a confirmation that it's going to be taking place. Is that going to take place? Do you think that those characters, those specific actors, will be able, and Supergirl as well, obviously as well, be translated and be moved when the Justice League finally forms up in a couple years or so?
Unfortunately, no, because a lot like Marvel, a lot of DC's comics hinge on the idea of multiple universes. So they're committed to a multiverse theory, to where the TV shows and the movies they exist in the same realm, I guess, but they're in different universes. So if what I think Ezra Miller has been cast as the Flash as opposed to uh, Grant Gustin, I think his name is, and they haven't really mentioned anything about Green Arrow, but allegedly they want to keep their TV shows and their movies separate, but allegedly they're working with a multiverse theory. So maybe at some point in the future, these two entities can intertwine with each other, but at the moment, there's not really any plans for it, just because that's the way Zack Snyder set this whole thing up.
To me, that's kind of disappointing as far as it's concerned, because if they were failing TV shows, as far as it's concerned, I could see that. I could see that, and I have no problem with it. But these are shows that they're the backbone of CW's programming. I know some people would chuckle at that statement because, like, if seeing CW's ratings as if they had a backbone in the first place, but it is true. It is their backbone of their ratings, and Supergirl has performed quite well on CBS. I believe it is up for renewal. It most likely be renewed. I say there's a good shot at it. So there is a future for all three of these franchises in TV, and audiences just trying to realize why you would make these things different. Why do I have to have a different Flash here when I go out to the movies? And an hour ago, I just watched the Flash on the CW. I just keeping that type of cohesion would be great. It would probably be recommended, in my opinion. But it is Hollywood, and ultimately DC Studios, like you said, with the multiverse option, it's probably the case as well. But then you're saying something like Marvel with the the Avengers and the Agents of Shield, where they try to keep some type of cohesion. There is still the Agent Coulson factor, which they never really explained well enough. But they really kind of like leave that alone. But they still kind of try to keep the cohesion between the films and the movies, TV shows and the movies, so that they all relate somehow to one another to at least an extent. At least the ABC shows, for example. I don't want to say the Netflix Marvel shows as of yet, but at least from the TV shows that they're trying to have a correlation with each other and whatnot. But needless to say, I'm kind of I think it will do well. I don't want to say it won't do badly, but I don't think that they have the cachet that Marvel does. I think that once the Batman series kind of went downhill with the last Batman movie, and then Man of Steel, which, like you said, was a pretty good movie on its own merits, but for some reason didn't fully get to the level where it needed to be. It's funny because it made more money than quite a few of the Marvel movies when you look at worldwide grosses or even domestic grosses. But in its whatever, for whatever reason, it's just not as well appreciated of a movie as the Marvel movies. Even some of the lesser appreciated Marvel movies, from recent past that's taken place. It just seems that Man of Steel cannot buy enough love for that's concerned. And the problem with Batman versus Superman is that you've had to have seen Man of Steel to at least have a better idea going in, because I know some of the at least part of it, and I'm assuming the beginning of it or near the beginning would have a direct correlation with the ending events of that movie, if from what I've seen is correct.
Yeah, let me I can't be the only one who thinks this, but Warner Brothers has an obsession with Batman that I just cannot fathom. From what I've read multiple articles about this, about them saying they actually cut out scenes with Superman to put Batman in there, and I really don't. Batman's cool, but he's not Superman. I think Superman is such an interesting character because his biggest flaw to him is that he's more human than a lot of the humans in the DC universe. And honestly, Superman would just annihilate Batman. The only reason
but in as far as box office is concerned, as far as movie success is concerned, Batman has trounced, at least in the recent history. Some of the 90s Batman movies notwithstanding, but at least in the recent history, Batman has, the Dark Knight Rises, while it is not considered the best of the trilogy, it still financially did well enough so that they want to continue with the Batman franchises as a whole again. It just thought for some reason it's just thought of better than the Superman franchises as far as from a movie aspect.
Yeah, and like I get that. It's just the I feel like it all hinges on the writing. So you have Chris Nolan's writing team was obviously spectacular when they did The Dark Knight. So I feel like Warner Brothers isn't really giving Superman a chance here. Like Man of Steel was fantastic, but in this movie they paint Superman to be kind of like a villain, and he's kind of getting sidekicked, I guess, in a way to make room for Batman.
Kind of like Iron Man in Civil War.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny how that works.
It's just you're making all these decisions based on profits and not on because there are some great stories to be told here, but it's being ruined at the prospect of how much money can we make off of it.
But then again, that's the point. I mean, as I said earlier when we were talking about the questions that you're asking me, in regards to the directions that they're making, it's ultimately that's what it comes down to with these corporations, and that's what everybody has to think of. It's no longer a comic book company. Marvel is a corporation. DC is not a comic book company. It's a corporation, and ultimately, in order to satisfy the greater good, for lack of a better term, of these corporations as far as their revenues or profits, the shareholders in which they need to take care of. They're obviously the in Marvel's case, Disney, which owns them, obviously to make sure that they're viable, is to run out of profit and try to make your entities as big budget as make it garner as much revenue as possible. And ultimately those decisions, whether they deviate substantially or even just a small margin above what the the source material is, that seems to be the case. Ultimately, the money wins out. At least the what they think is the best financial decisions seems to always win out. And yeah, it looks like it is straying away from the original vision of the comic books as far as it's concerned. But Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice is coming out this weekend. I think it holds some promise, but I just don't have the same faith as far as it's concerned, because like you said, there's such a dichotomy regarding the well thought of Batman, even if there's Ben Affleck now playing it and the Superman character, and there's just so much a difference of opinion even internally as far as exactly how far it will go. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't see the same success initially off the bat. Maybe Suicide Squad could garner that grab that brass ring that seemingly some of the Marvel movies, like most notably Deadpool, has garnered. But I think it will do well. Will do well enough to obviously support and be a foundation for the Justice League franchises movies to come. Whether or not that means success for an Aquaman separate movie or a Wonder Woman separate movie or what have you, that I don't know yet. That I'll have to gauge and see by the success, definitely, of this movie, so I can give you a better answer on that.
Right. Yeah. Time will tell, I guess. We'll have to see. Not critics, because obviously critics are going to be a lot harder on superhero movies now that they've built so much momentum, but ultimately it's going to be up to the fans to decide how much they like that movie. And it's and like you said, the whole idea that it's these corporations have such the money is a big thing is kind of sad in itself, because if you think about it, so much of Hollywood's income relies so heavily on these Hollywood blockbusters. So they make one wrong move and there's the danger of the entire structure collapsing. That's why Spielberg might have had a point when he said the future of film belongs to the indie makers.
Exactly, but the problem is those indie makers, they seem to, once they get success on their own as indie makers, they seem to, a lot of them, I don't want to say all, I'll just say a good portion will jump on that opportunity to become part of a bigger structure base. They'll get those opportunities, and it works sometimes. And as we saw with Fantastic Four, it doesn't work sometimes as well. But we'll have to, I mean, I got to call it like I see it, because that movie did not work, and obviously it didn't translate into success at the box office. Now, mind you, I don't think Batman versus Superman is going to see that type of failure. I think it's actually, has at least some initial success that I think is a pretty good bet for. But long term, we will see if this can be the franchise cornerstone for their movie base that's upcoming. And I think we're going to get a good idea of that in the next 2 or 3 months, before or as Civil War itself, as their competitor, comes out as well. So we'll have to wait and see, but it starts this weekend. So if you're going to go see it, let us know at GameSource or GameSource on Facebook. Give us a holler. I'll be posting stories on the success or lack of success of the movie, either which way, on our GameSource Facebook site. So give us a check out right there, which also has had a lot of news and updates regarding virtual reality and all the great things that have gone on there. Because last week at the Developers Conference, if I could say that correctly, recently just wrapped up last week, and had a lot of interesting news. But the biggest news from that is the announcement of the actual time frame and the price that the PlayStation VR is finally going to come out with. So I ask you, Josh, I know you don't have a PlayStation 4 as of yet. I know you're an Xbox One fan, and you're waiting for the HoloLens to become that augmented reality experience that everybody is clamoring for. But seeing how it was introduced at $399 and $499 for all the apparatus, if you want that bundle, what are your initial thoughts as far as the hopes as far as for PlayStation VR as compared to, let's say, Google Cardboard or Samsung Galaxy, as far as VR is concerned, the Gear, or the Vive, or the Oculus Rift?
Well, a friend of mine just got a Samsung Galaxy, so he's showing me like it's pretty realistic. Like you get stuck there's one where you're like stuck in a shark cage, and you can play Temple Run on these things, but it's, is it going to be, my concern here, is it going to be like esports? Because at first everyone was really stoked about that stuff, and then they started, playing those games, and they realized, man, I don't like to sweat while I'm playing video games. So I think it's a great idea, and it's awesome. I love, like, when they show off the HoloLens at E3, that was pretty cool. And Sony's VR it looks fantastic. Like I just, it just depends on the price, and there's all kinds of factors, but at right now I can't make any predictions about it, but I'm excited about the future of VR. I think it's really the next step in gaming, because it's taking it off the screen and actually putting you inside of it. And that's really, if you want to make a jump in gaming, that's what you want to do, because the staring at the screen, there's only so much you can do to upgrade graphics and all that. But this is really like a huge leap. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
As am I. I know the PlayStation VR, but a lot of people are somewhat happy as far as that the price range is within the price structure of an actual console. I know there's some concern over the Vive from HTC, and also as well Oculus Rift, because of their pricing structure, that you also need a PC that's going to be able to support it. And most people right now at this point do not have that powerful of a PC. So which is, you'll have to not only upgrade, obviously get the virtual reality equipment itself, but you have to upgrade your PC with it. And that's a large expense for many people, for virtually every consumer out there, actually. Personally had experience at CES with the Gear VR, and while it is nice and whatnot and somewhat interactive, basically to me, I wanted to see more, and I'm hoping for better returns once the PlayStation VR comes into vogue, as far as it's concerned. From, like you said, the gaming aspect, the possibilities are really endless as far as it's concerned. But with Oculus Rift, I also have hopes for that one, because there was a reason why Facebook put $2 billion down on it. Oh. And I had stated on an article that I've got upcoming on virtual reality that their interest in virtual reality is more than just from a gaming aspect, and they see potential for this medium even beyond from an entertainment value. And I'm just hoping that be able to virtual reality be able to be utilized to its full potential and not go the way of recent failures like the Android console or 3D TV.
Let me ask you this though, like, as this has been a topic of a lot of debate among people. Do you think that as video games get more realistic with virtual reality, do you think that people will start to get like PTSD from video games?
I think there might be some effect from it. Yes, I think if because when people do things, what once they get these in their room, their houses, their rooms, dorm rooms, whatever, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it in mass because there's no. The only instructions that I've seen, as far as is concerned, have dealt with the age issue, where I think Oculus did 12 years old, and Sony has actually said 13-year-old is maybe the starting point. Anything younger, and they're worried about possible issues from being able to comprehend, but also adapt, and like you said, being able to have those moments when you don't have the glasses on. So that's why they're asking those younger audiences not to use virtual reality as of this point in time. But I can see that with anybody. As you know, you've seen gamers who you and I have been gamers that have played for 5, 6, 7, 10 hour stretches. Back when I was younger, that's what I did a lot of. As far as is concerned, and just if I put on a virtual reality for that amount of time, it's going to have some effect on me once I take off those glasses. And I know that's going to be with a lot of other people as well, because you can't do something in that type of mass and not affect you in some manner. We've seen it affected just playing video games a whole.
Oh,
Some instances of people, not actually getting health issues because they're not going and understanding and realizing that they have to do something to break up the monotony of just playing the video game for long stretches at a time. And virtual reality, telling the brain something else as far as it's concerned, once you put off on that immersive experience, that's just going to make it even more susceptible to, I think, like you said, PTSD or some other issues relating to that. I definitely agree with you there.
yeah, because if you think about the mind at, especially at 12, 13, even up to like 16 there, and beyond, the mind is so moldable. So, I mean, you get, once you get, I mean, I don't know how it is for you, like, but when I used to play Halo, in junior high school, a lot of like that game would feel like home to me. Like I would go inside of that game and I would just kind of stay there for a while. So if you imagine that kind of effect, but with virtual reality where you're actually inside of it, you're spinning in all directions and you're engulfed in this war, like, or world, whatever it is you're playing. It seems like it has some dangers, I guess.
Well, with like you said with Halo 2 multiplayer, I played it constantly every night for about well over 2 year period, and I know even when I was not on, I was still thinking about it. I was still imagining scenarios in my head, whether it was something that happened in the game or something I needed to go ahead and do the next time I come on. It had taken over a certain aspect of my life, and I know that for some people that are going to be able are going to buy this and be able to use it for long stretches at a time, because somebody is going to,
Oh,
and
yeah.
way more than they should be doing in stretches. But that's going to definitely happen, and it might happen to detrimental effects to them. And we don't even know long term the possibilities as far as having this on and being able to use it. Could be nothing wrong with it. Could be okay. Everything could be fine. As far as any long term effects of it. But we don't know as far as what the long term effects can be. The only virtual reality we've had in lesser amounts, and maybe going to an arcade or and don't say the Virtual Boy anyone out there, because that wasn't really that much of a virtual experience per se. But okay, I guess you could. but they're that's just we really have not been able to be subject as a wide audience to the mass use of virtual reality in any shape or form, and the long term ramifications of that were nobody has any clue. So let's I have some enthusiasm for the product. I'm not. I mean, my use extended use of it has not garnered me a whole lot of interest as much as others, but I'm hopeful for the industry. Obviously, there's some interest in it because the major sellouts all over the place for PlayStation VR, which has already sold like gangbusters in Europe, and I know pre-orders are going to be doing the same here initially. And I know the price making right around what a console would be, making it was definitely a good move for by Sony indeed. But I don't know. The long-term issues with virtual reality are there. The long-term concerns and the long-term health effects could be there as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely there's reason to be concerned, but at the same time, you have to look at it like, any video game that's come out in the past. Obviously, people are going to say, "Oh, you're going to get addicted to this." It's just right now, it's really just a wait and see kind of thing.
Definitely, indeed. It definitely is going to be a wait and see type of thing. And well, we'll also have to wait and see as far as our final topic tonight, and that is the possible death of the Wii U. The Japanese newspaper, I believe it's Nikkei, reported the other day that, they reported that the Wii U may be ending production. Nintendo may be ending a production on the console as early as this year. Obviously, you're going to be introducing the Nintendo NX. That has now become no secret to anyone at all. But even though there are denials as early as late as today, saying that they're not going to kill off the Wii U that quickly, the rumors and substantiated reports may be truthful to some extent as well. So I ask you this, as someone who, you and I have talked about the viability of the Wii U to a consumer base, the fact that there are a number of strong titles in its library, but yet it really hasn't clicked with a large audience at all to any extent, seeing how it's number three in the current console race. Um, I mean, I know I was close to buying one, but then, like I said, there was, as I've told so many people, there's just not that one thing that grabbed me, and that, as far as is concerned, that was probably for many people. So obviously, I ask you, should the Wii U die? Does it need to die? And how upset are people really going to be if the Wii U eventually meets its demise?
I feel bad saying this, but I really don't feel like people are going to be too disappointed with the loss of the Wii U, especially since Nintendo has this new console coming up, which hopefully we'll get a glimpse of soon. But I think that Nintendo really has failed to capture the same momentum that PlayStation and Xbox has, especially since a good majority of their games are geared towards a younger audience. Though they're fun, adults still find them fun, but they don't have a Halo, they don't have like their own Uncharted, they don't have a Mass Effect. It's just they've
But they do, from a first party standpoint, they have the best lineup. That their lineup stands critically on a better basis than either of them, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. And at one time, like they were they were on top of the console game, but I feel like I don't know what it is. Like I can't say for sure because I don't own a Wii U, but I feel like maybe people are getting burnt out on these games because there are a ton of Mario and Sonic games, and while they're fun, it's just it's the same question that people have with Halo. Are people just getting tired of it? So I think with the new Nintendo, they really have a chance to recapture that last that faded glory that they've had in the past.
And they had the riding momentum of the Wii, and they were out first virtually a year ahead of time before the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 in this case, and still weren't able to capture the momentum that I felt that they should have. And it's going to be a shame that the Wii U may be meeting its demise. Like I said, according to reports, even though Nintendo has denied it, the writing's on the wall for the Wii U, unfortunately. Even though it does have an outstanding lineup, but there were issues I know with a lot of people that have talked about their online experience with the Wii U is so much more complicated than its two main competitors, and also as well the lack of a third party robust relationship as far as third party titles are concerned. I think that was also a defining factor for the Wii U as well. It's just I want to wait and see. I want to see what happens with the NX. It's obviously they see where things went wrong with the Wii U, and they're trying to make it right with they're going to make it right, or at least they're going to try to make it right with the NX, I should say. And I definitely think that maybe the time has come for just a quick transition from the Wii U to the NX is necessary at this point. There's talk now that Zelda will actually only be on the NX. You were hearing all sorts of wild stories ever since the report came out yesterday in regards to the future of the Wii U, possible future for the Wii U, I should say. But I think at this point in time that the Wii U has been an underwhelming success. Obviously the numbers represented that what the major consumer base has said about that. Even though it's had an outstanding lineup of first-party games, the overall Wii U experience was not what it needed to be. But Nintendo, I still have every confidence in the world that they're going to do something right with the NX. And now that they're actually making some smart moves as far as getting into a smartphone and mobile audience, and finally reaching out that audience after years I've asked them to do that, and they're making some headway there, that they are taking some right steps and going in the right direction. I think if they shed themselves the Wii U sooner rather than later, that might be a step in the right direction so that they can fully focus on bringing, the core experience of the NX home to an audience. I know you saw it as a person who has the Xbox One. The 360, they dropped the 360 like a bad habit as soon as the Xbox One solidified itself as a gaming unit. Did they not?
Yes, they did. And like back like with Nintendo, like I see just if the recent success of Rocket League has really proven anything with like Xbox One and PlayStation, it's that people love independently made video games. So I feel like if Nintendo were to cash in on the indie game craze, like I think they could really they could rise up in the console war.
Absolutely, and like I said, I don't want to say it's the death knell for Nintendo because it's certainly by no means. I know, like I said, their entries into the mobile gaming market in Japan have garnered huge success in the past couple of weeks. And their future for theirs just is infinite as far as what the possibilities could be for mobile users around the world as far as bringing all their classics home or different scenarios for that is concerned. And I know one thing we've talked about over the years on at yourgamesource.com is the lack of new properties, new IPs taking hold with the Nintendo franchises, that it always seems to be some iteration of Mario or Zelda or the like. And I know that may be of some concern as well, but I have every bit of faith that Nintendo will take some better steps forward with the NX once it's introduced, and could be better served indefinitely, most definitely by maybe putting to rest the future of the Wii U maybe after this year.
Right. We'll have to just when E3 rolls around, we'll have to see for sure what's happening with Nintendo. I have every bit of faith in them though that they can really kind of correct their mistakes and rise up.
That just makes it more beneficial to owners out there of the Wii U because they'll be able to get their products cheaper, and anybody who's still interested in a Wii U, you're going to be able to get it at a really good price in the not too distant future. And their first party lineup, I will say again, the first party lineup over the past 3 years, with them competing against PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, their first party lineup has been superior unfortunately, that has not been able to translate in any other aspect of the experience to be more attractive to a core audience. So maybe it is time to put the future of the Wii U to rest and maybe focus solely on providing a quality NX experience. All right. Well, it's been a great discussion tonight. Once again, Josh, you got Center Space going on there. You got Vendetta Dark still out there for the masses on Amazon. It's a great novel if anybody wants to be able to pick it up. You got Center Space. Once again, tell us how we can get all these great products that you've come up with.
Right now, you can get Vendetta Dark from Barnes & Noble, Amazon in paperback form, and you also get an ebook on Kindle and Nook formats. And right now, you can get Center Space, which is kind of the indirect sequel to Vendetta Dark, on an ebook format from Nook. But it'll be out in Kindle hopefully by the end of next week.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when all the parts of the short stories are finished, it's actually going to be a novel. So you'll be able to get that in paperback probably, I want to say, before January.
Sweet. If they have any questions, is there a way to contact you?
Yeah, you can contact me on Facebook. I don't actually remember what the link is. I'll have to send it over to you. But
or
yeah,
you know what? They can always get a hold of us, info@yourgamesource.com, and I can forward any question that they might have about any one of your projects. I immediately forward it over to you if that's the case.
Yes, exactly. That'll work too.
Sweet. Yeah. So, or like I said, Josh is easily out on many social media outlets. So search for him there. And like I said, he's got some good stuff. And if you liked Vendetta Dark like I did, Center Space is something definitely to look forward to indeed. As for us, it's another edition of the Game Source Podcast, number 140, coming to an end. We appreciate you watching, listening. Catch us again, yourgamesource.com. We're one of the leading providers of video game news and stories from around the internet on everything that is video games, pop culture, TV, movies, technology, and you name it. It just seems to be out there, and we cover it. We give you a glimpse of it, and we show you the best stories from around the internet on that, and keep you all up to date. So give us a like on Facebook, and you will get all that info straight to you without having to search around for it yourself. So for me, this is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives. It's been another beautiful day in paradise. Josh, any last words?
Seriously, thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a pleasure.
And it has been indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald, better known as Yes Elvis Lives, saying thanks for watching. Appreciate you listening, and you have yourselves a great day.